Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I have the opportunity to work on a treasure, a nice reel. This one's interesting. So this is a Lew Childre Browning 3-ball bearing fishing reel. The unique thing about it is that this is probably one of the oldest reels made by Shimano. And Lew had contracted with Shimano, who was a bike parts manufacturer, to make fishing reels, and well, the rest is history. This one's got a lot of dirt, some corrosion, a little noisy, 3-ball bearings, and we're going to take this apart, we're going to service it, and we're going to get this one back to Johnny, who sent it in. This will be a joy. I don't have the schematic for it, so one of the things I'm going to ask you to do right off the bat as you work on these reels is to take pictures, because the pictures will help you in the event that you forget where a particular piece or part goes, or the orientation on that piece or part, and you can just go back and reference it. Now, your pictures don't have to be a video like I'm doing here. They can be still pictures on a digital camera. You can use your cell phone. You can even use film if you want. But take the pictures. Don't be in a rush and then find yourself stuck later. So, as best I can tell, this just hasn't been oiled in a while. It certainly hasn't been cleaned. There's all kinds of dirt and debris in here, and we're going to take care of that as we go about cleaning the reel. So while we get started here, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel and everybody involved in keeping us safe during the pandemic. That includes our first responders, all uniformed services, everybody in the hospitals, whether you're in the emergency room or any of the wards, all of the folks in the long-term care facilities and all of the acute care facilities, as well as those on the front line administering our vaccines and the like. Thank you for everything it is that you do. Well, here's one of the tip-offs right away, right? We have a 3-point star adjuster, and that's kind of common to a host of the Shimano reels. So I'm going to take that off. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can get inside the case, and that's where we're going to find more dirt, more dried grease, and the like. And the best way to do that is to get this off right away. So if you like to see these kinds of videos, I would recommend that you subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see when I'm posting and what I'm posting. I work on all kinds of reels. This just happens to be a round bait caster, one of the earlier ones. But you'll see what I'm working on, and if you think that you might enjoy that segment, by all means go ahead and subscribe. So very interesting here. It's made in Japan. Look at the level of dirt here. So that makes me wonder where Johnny found this, because wow, it's a treasure, and this one may have been a buried treasure. But regardless, we're going to get this one back out there and working again. This is a 3-ball bearing reel. I would say it's got some pretty good capacity on it. They remind me of the early Daiwa reels of the time. This is a Shimano, but Daiwa was very much that way as well. And as time moved on, the reels got a little bit more slim-lined, and that slim fashion to it enabled you to cast further and not take up as much real estate. Alright, so there's 2 more screws here. Now I removed those. You can see those are through screws. That's why they went through and opened up the back. The ball bearing just came out of here. That's why it's good to take the pictures. And now these 2 screws here need to be removed to get to this side plate. And I'm doing this because I want to give this case a good cleaning. As we can see, there's a lot of dirt in there. I'm putting all my pieces that I take off into a parts tray. This is the bottom of a plastic milk jug, but I use it for organization. I recommend that you do the same. There's a lot of things that are small pieces of parts, like these case screws, and if you don't pay attention to them, you will find that they will spring out on you and get lost, always at the inappropriate time. Let's take a look at this. This is a good place to take the picture. This is your free spool release. It's going to come down here, and it'll put a leg under the main gear here. The main gear also drives the level wind, so you'll see how that's working here like that. You have a traditional forked tine dog, if you will, but that's going to go on the back of this reel. Here's that second ball bearing. I'm going to pull that whole structure off to show you a little more. This is the anti-reverse dog. It's got forked teeth to it, and that's going to help stop the reel from going backwards. Put that in here. I'm seeing a nice clean reel, so I'm thinking what's probably happening here is lack of grease and a lot of dirt, right? So we're going to continue with this. You have two C-clips on the posts here that are holding the springs for the pinion gear yoke. So I'm going to remove those. Usually you can remove those just by hand. And be careful, because that spring is under tension as you're taking this apart. You don't want to have that spring shoot. So kind of hold both as you're doing that. We'll do it again just to show you here. And you'll notice I do wear a glove on my left hand. I like to have a glove on both, but it's kind of tough for me to work it that way. So what I'm doing here is just grabbing the tip of each side of that clip, pulling it back to me, and as soon as I feel that tension release, I have the E-clip out now. I've held that spring here so it doesn't shoot, and then I'm going to release that spring. Now we can take the pinion gear and the yoke off. And this is that little trip lever for the main gear. So the main gear back here has all those teeth. It's going to fire that trip lever to release. This is really clean. If anything, it's just dry. So our job in terms of tuning this part of the reel up is to just simply make sure it's clean and go back in and make sure that it gets the oil it's needed to keeping this working well. So I'm just going to use the oil to get onto the contact points. And I'm using oil, not grease, on this because I don't want the grease to come in here and trap dirt. Now I'm just kind of working it down and back and forth. Now we'll see how it fires on the back side. We'll set that in motion. Oh, let's turn it out first. This is a good place to take a picture. If that spring ever gets dislodged, you're going to want to know where that spring belongs. Same here. I'm going to put this back on for a moment to show you how that works. I'm going to push down to cast. Now you have the arm is intersecting below here on that piece that I was telling you about. And then if we have this right, when you turn your reel, it's going to trip it back up. There you go. All right. So all of that is working well. It's all been oiled. We're going to come over to the main gear now. Notice that on the stack here you have a series of washers. You have two flat washers that are inside the bearing. So that's the third bearing now. And underneath that bearing you have two tension washers. Or two tension washers and a flat washer. I'm going to pull all of them out. I'm going to keep this stack the way I found it. Now we can push our main gear through. And it looks like whoever had this reel, and I don't know if Johnny's owned it all along or not, but whoever's had this reel is just sat because the drag washer behind here is in nice condition, just like the rest of this reel. And that's what you want to do. You want to inspect the drag washers here. And this one, under pressure, these tend to warp a little bit, so if you need an assist, just grab it with a pliers and just walk it up, just like that. And you can see that the drag washer's hardly used. Very interesting. Inspect the back one. Back one's the same way. So this has either been serviced and they're new, or it's just hasn't been used much. My guess, looking at this reel, is this reel just hasn't been used much. All right, they don't need lubrication on them, but what does need lubrication is the main gear, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm using a Penn Precision Reel Grease. It's a blue grease. I really don't care and don't have a preference for one over another, but you should be using fishing reel grease on fishing reels. While I have that, I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the gear that's driving off the main gear. I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the axle shaft, and we will be fine with that. That's the extent that you want to put grease on. All right, there is a copper washer on the bottom of the post here. If you didn't notice that, or if it came out with this, you need to make sure that that goes back on. We're going to reinstall the, well, we're going to put that yoke back first. So you want to inspect the teeth on the gears. I was doing that, but didn't tell you about it when I was doing the main gear. You want to make sure that they're all uniform, that they're not bent or chipped or broken in any regard. That will result in poor performance of the fishing reel. Okay, and the pinion gear, same thing here. You want to make sure that your yoke is clean. Let's get some grease on that. These reels are pretty well sought after now, highly sought after. There's there continues to be a market for them. You can see how well they're made. And with the way that they're made, they will last a long time. All right, we'll do the same thing. Now we're kind of going in reverse, right? We're going to take one of these springs. I'm going to put that on. We're going to grab one of those E-clips. Same thing. Be careful here. Push down on the spring to put the tension on it, because you've got to get to the groove where this is going to ride. Set that into the groove, and usually your hand strength, I will apologize right up front, but usually your hand strength is enough to seat that correctly. There we go. There was just a little bit of oddball tension on it. So let's do it again. You get the benefit of having two of them here. So we'll do it again for you. And again, I'm going to have to apologize a little bit. I know you're watching my hand, but that's kind of the only way to do that. And this channel really is an invite into my shop. You get to see what I'm doing. Here's that groove. I don't know if you can see it. We'll bring it up a little bit. You can see the groove that's right in here. That's where your E-clip is lodging. So you want to keep pressure on that spring. Work your E-clip over to where it's in both sides of the groove. And then use some finger strength. It can push on from the back end. So that it seats. And then you visually have to check and make sure that both sides are in that groove. Just like this. I know it may not be hard to see. There we go. That one's in. This one's in. So we're back on that. Now we can take the main gear. We come back in. We've greased the shaft. We've greased the line guide mechanism. Now we can merge the main gear. Oops. That was an oops. You want to come along and put that anti-reverse dog on. So the anti-reverse dog rides on the back here. You can see how it sits in there. You want to make sure as you're loading your anti-reverse dog that you have it in the proper position where the beak is kind of flush with the little indentation there. And then as you go to load the main gear, you need to line the hole in the anti-reverse dog with this outside stud. Just like that. Then you can kind of push down on the whole assembly. And then test. You want to turn your wheel, and as you back, make sure that the dog pulls in. And we've got that top plate. Again, you don't need to do anything. You could grease that. That's a hard washer, so it can behave by itself. And then again, because this has been pressed down, it's a little bit out of shape, but I completely understand that from the time that it's been there. Once you've reset that, you want to find your tension washer, which is the one that's concave. That goes on next. You got to square that up with the shoulders. There we go. Then we have a flat washer. And we kind of have a unique washer here. It's got a little lip on it. It's actually going to lip over the bearing. Protect that race. And then we have the opposite for the top. And that's your side plate structure. I'm just making sure that everything's intact before we go to put that side case back on. But one of the things we noted is this needs a little bit of a cleaning. A lot of dirt on there. So I'm going to go do that right now. I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner, pen rod and reel cleaner. It's just dust. So let's get the dust and dirt off of here. This is a cleaner and a polisher. So it will help in all regards. And then I'm going to use a Q-tip or a cotton swab. I think these actually are Q-tips, but Q-tip has become a generic name, which I'm trying to prevent, I guess. Not quite sure, but okay, so that takes care of all the dust and dirt on this side. We're going to do more cleaning of that frame, but I want to get this back on. I'm going to come over and do the rest of this reel. It's cleaned up very nicely, as you might imagine. And we can go ahead and put this side plate back together so that we don't disrupt anything else at this point. I'll line your 3 side plates, screws into the proper channels. Take the 2 screws for the side plate, put those on. So if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, leave them in the comments section. I will be happy to try and answer those for you, and I will by all means try to direct you somewhere if I can't or I don't know the answer to a particular question. I'll try and direct you where you might be able to get that answer. There's plenty of questions out there. I have no idea what the answers are, but I do try to assist and help as much as I can. Here's your bearing for the spool on the gear side. I'm going to oil that and put that back into its cavity. And then we have the spool adjusters next. I'm just going to do 1 turn on there for now, just to keep that where it is. All right, let's come on over. We'll do the spool and we'll do the cleaning here. So you can see that this side is pretty dirty and it's kind of awkward there. You can do 2 things. First, we'll try this. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. But I'm going to load this up with penetrating oil. Penetrating oil is a degreaser. It's a solvent. It's also a light lubricant. But I like it for this because if you find yourself in tight spots, it generally will loosen up the dirt and grease and junk. And then you can come back in with that cotton swab. Go do some cleaning on that, just like this. And for the most part, I'm satisfied with the results of using that as a cleaner. We'll just go ahead and kind of work this down the side. And of course we have the same dirt inside, right? So I'm going to use just a light spray in there. And hopefully my big fingers are going to be able to get the rest of this out on the inside. And make this reel kind of look almost new again. Look at that. And the paint is not worn. It's in beautiful condition. Okay, we've got a spool next. It's got the same thing, so you know it's been a while since that spool has seen action. And I'd like to know the story. I wish reels could talk sometimes. They would tell you all kinds of things, good and bad, about what's gone on. These are big brakes for the spool. They help slow the spool down when casting. Make sure that you have them on, and when you go to put them on, make sure that you push them in towards the core. That's because when you go to put this side plate on, you've got a race here, and if that's extended out too far, it's going to go like this, and you won't be able to get the side plate on. So make sure that that's on there. Same thing, last of the bearings is the 3rd bearing. We're going to go ahead and put that on. Now's the time to put the spool back in. Before you do that, you want to make sure that you get grease onto the spool stud. Not a lot, but get some on there. And we can go reinsert that. And that's why I left this adjuster loose. I want to make sure that I properly seat the spool, and also if the gear didn't align, I want to be able to go in there and help realign it. All right, same idea here. I'm going to use that rod and reel cleaner one more time. I probably have enough sitting on that pad right now. This is a kitchen scrubby. I just take about a quarter of the basic kitchen scrubby. Doesn't have to be Scotch Guard. It can be anything that you find out in the marketplace. Actually, I think I get mine from a dollar store. But I like the gentle abrasiveness of it without it tearing it up like some other pieces would do. All right, we just should be able to just load this on now. Line it up, load it up. And just as I was saying, you have a spool brake that got trapped in that little race there. I have another video I'm going to do on what happens if you lose one of these things. Common practice. Let's try this again. Oh, there you go. Fits nice and easy now. All right, we're going to just take these thumb screws and put them in. And the only thing left then is just doing a little bit of oiling of that level wind guide pawl. And a little cleanup. I notice there's still a little dust on that one side there. So this is the predecessor of the Lew's line of fishing reels. And Lew's now, I think, is owned by Rather Products. And they've kind of taken over the Zebco Quantum line. And Lew's is pretty much becoming the brand, the flagship brand now. So, but this one was made, I believe, in the 70s. I'd have to go back and check when Shimano first started making these for Lew's, but I think it was the 70s. And the brand has endured, and Shimano just took off. This was, I believe, this was the first of the fishing reels that Shimano made before they started making them under their own brand. I have to go back. I know some things, but I don't know a lot about every manufacturer, but for some reason that seems to stick in my mind there. With the star adjuster tightened down, I can take that handle off because I have to put that little tension spring in. But let's bring that over to the side there. Now I can remove the pole cap to service the pole. So you want to put a drop of oil in there if the pole is working properly. You don't need to remove it, but you can. Simply do that and you'll remove it. And if you find anything, this is a plastic pole, this is interesting. You can just kind of wipe off the debris. Just like that. Make sure that the teeth are nice and even, they are. A little squirt of oil onto the worm drive. Again, I use oil, I don't use grease there. And the reason for that is just like the internal parts there. I don't want to find myself in a position where the grease is accumulating sea spray and salt and dirt and dust and jamming the components. So I would much rather use oil, which evaporates faster than grease, and just be on the safe side. Well, let's see, we should be able to get this going again. We can. All right, now we have the tension spring underneath the handle. The handle goes next. There's the shaft screw goes next. So if you, like Johnny, you have a reel that maybe you're unfamiliar with, maybe you don't want to work on, maybe it's a childhood memory that just has been around a while and you'd like to preserve it, well, if you're interested in having me work on that, please send a note to my email on the business card that follows. I'll be happy to provide you with the repair information. All right, next up then is this cap. And I'll be able to give it a little bit of a test drive there, see how we did. Beautiful reel. You can see why they're still valued today, 30 or 40 or 50 years later, 40 years later, I guess. I guess time flies when you're having fun. Generally speaking, if you can line a point of the cap nut with that tie-down screw area, or the flat side of the nut perpendicular to that, you will be able to get the clip on without an adjustment. We'll find out. Yeah, not far off. In this case, you're able to grab that cap. And now the cap nut. And I think the only thing I need to put a little drop of oil on is the two handle wings. And I'm going to use the WD-40 for that just because it's light oil. I generally don't put or use WD-40 as a lubricant, but I think when you get to handles where you have tight spaces and no oil ports or the like, you can do two things. You can use it as a cleaner degreaser here, and also as a lubricant for those handle knobs. All right, let's give it a try. Wow, is that smooth or what? There's no question about why people like to lose reels and why they've endured. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, again, please like it. To everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.